Okay, welcome back to part 2 and chapter 2. And this chapter is called A Very Special Little Girl. Okay, here goes. Before we meet this deeply wicked individual, we need to go back to the beginning. Zoe's real mum died when she was a baby. But Zoe had always had a very happy life. Dad and Zoe had always been a little team, and he showered her with love. While Zoe was at school, Dad went out to work at the local ice cream factory. He had adored ice cream ever since he was a little boy, and he loved working at the factory, even though the job involved very long hours and not much money and was very hard work. What kept Zoe's dad going was making brand new ice cream flavours. And at the end of every shift in the factory, he would rush home excitedly, laden with samples of some weird and wonderful new flavour for Zoe to be the first to try. Then he would report back what she liked to the boss. There's a picture of Zoe and her dad. Okay, Zoe's favourites were Sherbet Bang, Bubblicious Bubblegum, Triple Choco Nut Fudge Swirl, and Clandy Floss Supreme. Caramel and Custard, Mango Surprise, Cola Cube and Jelly, Peanut Butter and Banana Foam, Pineapple and Licorice, Whiz Fizz Space Dust Explosion. Her least favourite was Snail and Broccoli. Not even Zoe's dad could make a snail and broccoli ice cream taste good. Not all of the flavours made it to the shops, especially not the snail and broccoli. But Zoe tried them all. Sometimes she ate so much ice cream she thought she would explode. Best of all, she would often be the only child in the world to try them. And that made Zoe feel like a very special little girl indeed. But there was one problem. Being an only child, Zoe had no one at home to play with apart from her dad, who worked long hours at the factory. So by the time she reached the age of 9, like many kids, she wanted a pet with all her heart and soul. It didn't have to be a hamster. She just needed something, anything to love. Something that she hoped would love her back. However, living on the 37th floor of a leaning tower block, it had to be something small. So on Zoe's 10th birthday, as a surprise, Dad left work early and met his daughter at the school gates. He carried her on his shoulders. She'd always loved that ever since she was a baby. And he took her to the local pet shop. There, he bought her a hamster. Zoe picked out the fluffiest, cutest baby one, and she called him Ginger Nut. Ginger Nut lived in a cage in the little girl's bedroom. Zoe didn't mind that Ginger Nut would go round and round on his wheel at night, keeping her awake. She didn't mind that he nipped her finger a couple of times when she fed him biscuits as a treat. She didn't even mind that the cage smelt of hamster wee. In short, Zoe loved Ginger Nut, and Ginger Nut loved Zoe. Zoe didn't have many friends at school, and what's more, the other kids bullied her for being short and ginger and having to wear braces on her teeth. Just one of those things would have been enough to give her a hard time. She'd hit the jackpot with all three. Ginger Nut was small and ginger too, though of course he didn't wear braces. That smallness and gingerness was probably deep down why Zoe had chosen him out of the dozens of little balls of fluff all snuggled together behind the glass at the pet shop, sort of like a kindred spirit. Over the weeks and months that followed, Zoe taught Ginger some mind-boggling tricks. For a sunflower seed, he would stand on his back legs and do a little dance. For a walnut, Ginger Nut would do a backflip. And for a lump of sugar, he'd spin around on his back. Zoe's dream was to make her little pet world famous as the very first breakdancing hamster. She planned to put on a little show at Christmas for all the other children on the estate. She even made a poster to advertise it. Ginger Nut, the break-dancing hamster. He locks, he up rocks, he floor rocks, he does the robot. He's learning the windmill but can't quite do it yet. On the decks, Zoe. Then one day, Dad came home from work with some very sad news, which would tear their happy little life apart. Chapter 3, Nothing. I've lost my job, said Dad. No, said Zoe. They're shutting down the factory and moving the whole operation to China. But you'll find another job, won't you, Dad? Well, I'll try, Dad said, but it won't be easy. There'll be loads of us, all looking for the same ones. And as it turned out, it wasn't easy. It was, in fact, impossible. With so many people losing their jobs all at once, Dad was forced to claim benefit money from the government. It was a pittance, barely enough to live off. With nothing to do all day, Dad became more and more sad and down. To begin, he went to the job centre every day, but there were never any jobs within 100 miles, and eventually he started going to the pub instead. Zoe could tell because she was fairly sure the job centre didn't stay open till that late at night. Zoe became more and more worried about her father. Sometimes she wondered if he'd given up on life altogether. Losing his wife, then his job, just seemed like too much for him to bear. Little did he know things were to get much worse. Dad met Zoe's stepmother when he was at his saddest. He was lonely, she was on her own. Her last husband having died in a mysterious prawn cocktail crisp related incident. Sheila seemed to think that husband number 10's benefit money would provide her with an easy life, with fags on tap and all the prawn cocktail crisps she could eat. As Zoe's real mum had died when Zoe was a baby, much as she tried, and she tried and tried, Zoe couldn't remember her. There used to be photographs of Mum up all over the flat. Mum had a kind smile, and Zoe would stare at the photographs and try and smile just like her. They certainly looked alike, especially when they were smiling. However, one day when everyone was out, Zoe's stepmother took all the photographs down, and now they were conveniently lost. Probably burned. Dad didn't like talking about Mum because it made him cry. However, she lived on in Zoe's heart. The little girl knew that her mum had loved her very much. She just knew it. Zoe also knew her stepmother did not love her. She didn't even like her very much. And in truth, Zoe was pretty sure her stepmother hated her. Sheila treated her, at worst, as an irritant, at best as if she was invisible. Zoe often overheard her stepmother saying she wanted her out of the house as soon as she was old enough. The little brat can stop sponging off me. The woman never gave her a penny, not even on her birthday. That Christmas, Sheila had given Zoe a used tissue as a present, and then laughed in her face when the girl unwrapped it. It was full of snot. Soon after Zoe's stepmother moved into the flat, she demanded the hamster moved out. "It stinks," she shrieked. However, after a great deal of shouting and slamming of doors, Zoe was finally allowed to keep her little pet. Sheila carried on despising Gingernut though. She moaned and moaned that the little hamster chewed holes in the sofa, even though it was burning hot ash falling from her fags that had really created them. Over and over again she warned her stepdaughter she would stamp on the nasty little beast if I ever catch it out of its cage. Sheila also mocked Zoe's attempts to teach her hamster to break dance. You're wasting your time with that nonsense. You and that little beast will amount to nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Zoe heard but chose not to listen. She knew that she had a special way with animals, and Dad has always told her so. In fact, Zoe dreamed of travelling the world with a huge menagerie of animal stars. She would train animals to do extraordinary tricks and feats that she believed would delight the world. She even made a list of what those madcap acts would be. A frog, who is a superstar DJ, a rapping terrapin, 2 gerbils who can ballroom dance together, an elephant who sings opera, a donkey who does magic tricks, a tap dancing centipede, and a boy band of guinea pigs. A street dance group of tortoises, a cat who does impressions of famous cats, a ballet dancing pig, a worm hypnotist, a high wire acrobatic acts with cows, an ant who does ventriloquism, a daredevil mole who does incredible stunts like being shot out of a cannon, a karate display with jellyfish, and a bungee jumping hippopotamus. Okay, here we go with the very last little bit, part 3. Zoe had it all planned out. With the money the animals earned, she and her father could both escape the leaning, crumbling tower block forever. Zoe could buy Dad a much bigger flat, and she could retire to a huge country house and set up a sanctuary for unwanted pets. The animals could run around in the grounds all day and sleep together in a giant bed at night. No animal too big or too small, they will all be loved, was written on the entrance gates. Then on that fateful day, Zoe came home from school to find that Gingernut was dead. And with him, Zoe's dreams of animal training stardom died. So, reader, after that little journey back in time, we're back at the start and ready to get on with the story. Don't turn back to the beginning though, because that would be really stupid. And you would go round and round in circles, reading the same few pages. No, move on to the next page and I will continue with the story. Right, quickly, stop. Stop reading this now and move on. Okay, that's the end of chapter 3. Join me next week to see what happens. Okay. My cat Charlie's joined us now, so we've got Charlie and Rusty, who's gone to sleep while I've been reading, all coming in to enjoy the story. A bit like Zoe's house, isn't it? Or her dream house with all the animals in. Anyway, guys, have a good week, and I'll see you next week so we can carry on with the story. Take care. Bye.